건강도시 지표, 건강도시 조성 활성화를 위한 행정적, 재정적 지원을 할 수 있다는 내용의 개정이 이루어졌습니다. 즉, 국가가 적극적으로 지방정부의 건강도시 사업에 협력하는 근거를 만들어서 대한민국 건강도시 조성에 활력을 불어넣고 있습니다. 국민건강증진법 개정으로 건강도시 관련 조항이 신설되면서 그동안 자발적 협의체 형태로 운영되어 온 지방정부 중심의 건강도시 정책이 국가 차원의 건강도시 정책 방향으로 변화하는 그 어떤 계기를 대한민국 건강도시 지방정부협의회가 만들었다고 볼 수도 있겠습니다. 법에 근거한 건강도시 지표는 5개 영역, 15개 지표, 34개 세부 지표, 96개 체크리스트로 구성되어 있습니다. 2024년부터 KHCP 해운도시뿐만 아니라 대한민국 모든 도시가 함께 건강도시 지표를 근거로 사업을 추진하고 있습니다. 5개 큰 영역은 인프라 구축, 부문 간 협력, 지역사회 참여, 사업기획 및 수행, 도시건강정보체계입니다. KHCP 건강도시 정책의 국제적 흐름을 학습하고 정책 실행 역량을 강화하기 위해 매년 9개 연수를 추진하고 있습니다. 단체장과 리더들을 대상으로 정책 리더십 아카데미와 실무자를 대상으로 실무자 아카데미를 운영하고 있습니다. 2023년 정책 리더십 아카데미는 북유럽 4개국을 방문하였고 2024년 실무자 아카데미는 호주 시드니와 울롱공을 방문하였습니다. 올해는 WHO 스위스 제네바 본부와 WHO 아카데미에서 연수를 진행하였습니다. 앞으로도 KHCP는 회원도시가 지역 문제에 대한 적극적인 참여와 공동으로 설계할 수 있는 건강도시 추진 메커니즘을 제도화하는 데 지속적인 역할을 수행할 것입니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you, Mayor Lim, for this comprehensive overview of the various activities done by the Korea Healthy Cities Partnership. Now, I would like to ask Sandra to share the history and key activities of the Australian network. And of course, given the differences in governance and institutional settings and policy context, things might look a bit different as well. So Sandra, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Ginny, and thank you very much, Mayor Lin Tak. So we're present today, a year from the signing of the partnership agreement with Korea and Australia. And the purpose of this meeting is, like any friendship, is to review our actions, share expert knowledge, and, like all good friendships, meet up, connect, collaborate, and most importantly, grow stronger together. To begin, I quote Ilona Kickbush, "Health is created where people live, love, work and play. It is created by human beings in their interactions with each other and with the physical environments." My journey with Healthy Cities began 40 years ago. I was shocked today when I did that research, when I was first elected to Kiama Council and appointed to represent the Council on the Governance Committee of Healthy Cities Illawarra. In 2004, as Mayor of Kiama Council and President of Healthy Cities Illawarra, I attended the inaugural meeting of the International Alliance of Healthy Cities in Kuching, Sarawak, Malaysia. The meeting formed the beginning of strong collaborative partnerships and friendships with global scholars, mayors, and health and local government professionals. I didn't realise at the time, but I was only one of 3 mayors that actually attended the formation of the Alliance. But the key message of the conference was that if Healthy Cities model were to be sustained, it had to be embedded in local government, which, as we know, councils or local government are the foundation stone and key drivers for community strategic planning, and with political will and leadership can bring about behavioural change in policy and council organisation. And I can't stress, and it's so wonderful to see Mayor Lim take here and taking that leadership role with the Korea Australian Partnership. The role of Mayor is critical, as leaders can bring a community with them. They all also hold the responsibility of managing the land and assets of the community, and also they're responsible for the resources of the community, the finances, the fundraising, and how to implement those resources wisely in the spirit of healthy cities. So on my return as Mayor and leader of the community, I presented a policy to Council, which was the Kiama Health Plan, which documented a holistic planning approach to address the interaction between human and environmental health. But ultimately, it encourages every citizen in that area to be responsible for their own health, not only improving their own physical health, but by their actions, improving the health of the environment, and also participating with the council in decisions on land use planning, health, social and economic development. Now, that plan at Kiama Council continued from 2004 to 2021, which is wonderful for a legislative policy or overarching document of a council. So that's continued use and reference to that policy. It's disappointing at the moment. It's still there, but it's been more as a reference, historical reference, but it's used for just simple project work. But as we know in healthy cities, the holistic approach or overarching approach is the way for actually significant progress with healthy cities. So the plan was the impetus for Kiama being recognised as a healthy city in 2008, which was the same year as the formation of the Australian chapter. And that meeting was held in Kiama, where we attached goodwill messages and aspirations for healthy cities on the tree in the Railway Park, acknowledging 20 years' commitment to healthy cities. Now, I took a photograph of this tree yesterday. So 1987, the organisation Healthy Cities Illawarra was established, one of three with federal, national Australian government funding, one of three areas around the country of Australia. And Kiama Council has been a member of the Healthy Cities Illawarra since that formation in 1987. The tree here, when that foundation stone was laid, was when we had the meeting of the Australian chapter, which was in 2008. So we recognised the great work of Healthy Cities Illawarra. Onka Paringa was there, and Noarlunga, and we did have an original representative from Canberra, as well as Logan, Townsville, Marion in South Australia. So there was significant representation, as well as international visitors and some early interest from Korea, which was wonderful. So with that tree, it was small enough that we could actually post aspirations for the growth of Healthy Cities Network on that tree. But now that tree stands about, I'd say, a good 15 metres high. So 2008, it's now 2025, so there's significant time has passed. And just like healthy cities, that tree is in a very healthy state as well. So the formation of the Australian chapter was a wonderful opportunity to form many international and local collaborations with Taiwan, Singapore, Hangzhou, China, and Australian cities. And in 2006, the cities of South Korea were showing strong interest with the Visiting Australia, particularly Kiama and Healthy Cities Illawarra. And then in 2010 and 11, Kiama and Muju County City in South Korea signed a memorandum of understanding to share friendship and expert knowledge of best practice. I visited Muju County and was very impressed, particularly with a policy there in support of encouraging physical activity amongst senior citizens or people that have retired from the workforce. Citizens of Korea over the age of 65. Any of the public parks and gyms, swimming pools were available free of charge or at a discounted rate to encourage older citizens to continue to exercise and look after their own health. And that was a policy that I brought back from South Korea and introduced to our council at Kiama. So we continue to host visiting delegations and information exchange. And then 2018, or might have been, the Wonju City hosted the Alliance for Healthy Cities conference. My experience is that Korea has the largest representation and growth of healthy cities in the network. And with the role and boundaries of responsibility of local government continues to expand, and most importantly, with increasing global uncertainty with war and conflict, global inequality, environmental disasters with climate change, local government really is the first responder and solutions to these problems, as they are the level of government closest to the people and community. Our future with Korea and Australia is strong if we can continue to demonstrate leadership and continue to grow our partnership with a global network of healthy cities. The challenge for Australia is to aspire to be like Korea, with all the cities and councils in Australia signing up to the Healthy Cities model. Korea, we can learn from you, and we need to encourage the Australian Local Government Association to actually take up this challenge and advocate on our behalf to the federal government in Australia to actually provide the federal funding to resource local government to continue with healthy cities. Australian governments have done this before, particularly with when Kevin Rudd was the Prime Minister, and it was a response to actually bypass funding from the state government and for the federal government to directly fund local councils. Here is an opportunity with this shared experience with Korea and Australia for our Australian federal government to directly fund local councils to actually develop and resource and develop good, strong policy with healthy cities. And Healthy Cities Australia, with Kelly Andrews as the CEO and Dr. Jenny Kim, they are good policy advisors to advise local councils in this initiative. So if communities are healthy, then our countries are healthy. And I think we can learn from the example with South Korea, with so many communities and councils and cities in Korea coming on board. And I congratulate you, Mayor Lim Teck, for your leadership in getting so many healthy cities to join in Korea. I look forward to helping and being part of this new transition in forming our global network. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. And thank you both, Mayor Lim and Sandra,
Good.
for your presentations on the Korean and Australian Healthy Cities networks. Now, let me open the panel discussion and invite Kelly Andrews and Heran Kim, who serve as the secretariats of each network. And I understand your roles would be focused more on the day-to-day operations of the network. Considering the benefits of having a national and global network, I wanted to have an open discussion about some of the opportunities, challenges, and next steps for our national networks. My first question is for both of you. The two national networks have signed an MOU a little over a year ago in February 2026. And I wanted to ask, what have you done since then, and what have you planned as next steps? Just a little update. I'll ask Ms. Heran to go first, and then I'll ask Kelly to speak next. Over to you, Ms. Heran.
안녕하세요. 대한민국 건강도시협의회 사무처장 김혜란입니다. 먼저 첫 번째 질문하신 부분인데요. 저희가 호주를 이제 방문해서 MOU 체결한 지 이제 1년이 넘었는데, 이제 의장님께서도 아까 프레젠테이션에서 말씀하셨듯이 저희가 여러 가지 국내에 또 사업들을 저희가 추진했습니다. 근데 이 호주의 경험을 바탕으로 해서 가장 이제 중요한 게 국가 간의 MOU 협력의 중요성을 저희 회원도시에게 알리는 역할을 저희가 솔선수범했던 것 같습니다. 그래서 연수에는 비록 이제 소수의 회원도시가 참여를 했는데요. 참여하지 않는 회원 도시들에게 연수의 결과라든지 협력의 중요성들을 저희가 공유를 하였습니다. 특히나 올해는 저번 달 6월 중순에 저희가 대한민국 건강도시협의회 실무자 교육 때 다시 한번 이 호주의 MOU 사항과 호주에서 있었던 연수의 경험들을 공유하였습니다. 그리고 그거를 계기로 오늘 이렇게 웨비나까지 추진하면서 혹시 회원도시들에게 더 넓은 생각들과 의견들을 오늘 같이 참여해서 할 수 있도록 저희가 그런 구체적인 활동도 했습니다. 그리고 이제 호주와 MOU를 체결한 후에 저희가 서태평양 건강도시 연맹 사무국이 지금 현재 일본에서 사무국 역할을 하고 있는데요. 그 사무국에게도 적극적으로 우리 대한민국 건강도시 협의회 회원 도시들이 좀 더 국가적인 네트워크를 더 확장하고 확보할 수 있도록 기회를 제공해 달라고 저희가 공식적으로 건의도 했습니다. 그리고 이 네트워크를 저희가 이제 보면요. 이게 파트너십 유형이라는 게 저희가 이제 처음에는 그냥 교류하게 이게 서로의 정보 교환, 그 다음에 이제 좀 더 지나고 나면 서로의 어떤 협조사항, 그리고 거기에서 상당한 시간과 의지가 필요하면 협력 관계가 되고, 거기에 이제 넘어가면 공동의 목적과 어떤 서로 간의 혜택을 위한 파트너 역량을 강화하는 협동 단계에 이른다고 하는데, 저희는 이제 서로의 정보를 교환하는 그런 단계인 것 같습니다. 그래서 앞으로 이 네트워크 오늘 회의를 통해서도 앞으로도 더욱더 좀 더 끈끈한 파트너십을 만들기 위해서 저희는 더 노력할 예정입니다. 그리고 다음 단계로 이제 어떤 계획을 하고 계신지 부분에서는 이 호주 네트워크 경험을 기반으로 저희가 국가 네트워크에 어떻게 하면 된다는 경험을 습득한 것 같습니다. 그래서 올해 저희가 WHO 연수 추진하는데도 작년에 이 호주와의 네트워크가 굉장히 많은 도움이 돼서 저희가 추진했습니다. 그래서 여러모로 그런 여러 가지 단계를 계획하고 있습니다. 감사합니다.
Ellie, would you like to respond?
Hi, thanks, Ginny. I've just got a few slides, and each of them represents the components of the MOU that we signed. So the first obligation, I suppose, for each city was to enhance and expand the Healthy Cities movement within our respective countries. So some examples of how we've done this is maintaining our networks and communication with the existing members of the Australian chapter and the universities and the NGOs, so that we kind of maintain, we're a very small group and it's dropped away over the years, but you know, we've kept in contact with a shared vision to breathe some fresh life into the movement in what we'd say is, you know, a critical point of human history. And I guess one of the most bold things that we have done was rebranding and reforming our organisation from Healthy Cities Illawarra to Healthy Cities Australia. You know, that involved a new brand and website, social media and case studies, but really sort of heralding our intent and our ambition to build a nationally recognised, well-resourced and connected network with good governance and accountability to try and re-engage local government, and as previous speakers have said, to build this network throughout at grassroots level. Another example of how we're trying to elevate Healthy Cities is by having it as a stream in the upcoming Australian Public Health Conference. We've got a stream on Healthy Cities. We've had some really great collaboration and ongoing partnership with our local governments in our region, in particular, most recently, Wollongong and Shellharbour local governments had successful motions recently passed at the General Assembly of the Australian Local Government Association. As Sandra said, that's a great opportunity for ALGA to advocate and lobby to the federal government for funding for local government initiatives, which is in preventative health, active transport, all the things that they're doing that keep people healthy and happy outside of the health system. We're currently in a strategic planning process for our organisation. So in terms of facilitating international collaborative efforts to enhance knowledge and evidence around healthy cities, we've attended just as previous speakers, some international conferences to extend our partnerships and make new networks, expand the network within Australia domestically. And there's been some good results as a result of that. So as a result of going to the Seoul conference last year, where I personally, for the first time professionally, met in person, because we haven't had in-person meetings in my tenure at Healthy Cities due to COVID. Meeting in person members from the World Health Organization based in Manila, meeting people from New Zealand and in Melbourne from the Global Observatory of Healthy and Sustainable Cities. And as an extension of that relationship nurturing, we've partnered and have successfully had papers accepted and a panel discussion accepted at the upcoming International Conference on Urban Health to be held in Wellington in November. And then, as Jinhee mentioned, and I think I'll speak about in the coming up, attendance at the European Healthy Cities Network. Again, going there to learn, to see how such an established network is effective in Europe, and bringing some of those learnings back to Australia. The other component of the MOU is around sharing experiences and creating healthy urban environments. So in the last 12 months, Healthy Cities has, with many partner organisations and really passionate professionals in our local region, developed a new communities of practice focusing on healthy urban environments. So that's bringing together urban planners, architects, landscapers and public health professionals together to learn, to network and to collaborate on policy and advocacy, recognising how important the built and urban environments are for human health. We continue to put in submissions to local government plans to provide some advice and insights into public documents. We continue to get good media coverage and sharing our experience and advocating on air quality, asthma triggers, food insecurity, the importance of play and activating public spaces. And we've had 3 major advocacy projects in the last 12 months, which has been quite significant. One, putting a regional food strategy back on the agenda for local governments. A big active transport project. There's a photo there that this is a infrastructure for new roads over $350 million. And there was no active transport bridge in the design. So very successfully, along with a lot of other community activists and organisations, have managed to put a pedestrian and active transport bridge back on that design. And also building some momentum in partnership with others, but to really encourage and lobby local governments to exercise the authority and the power that they have to prevent fossil gas being allowed to be put into new domestic and commercial buildings. And I think I'm running out of time, but the next, I'll skip over that one. The next steps is really a strategic revival of our domestic network, identifying key activities over the next 1 year, 2 and 3 years, new conversations with local governments, and probably, it's 40 years since the Ottawa Charter, and it's a different world. There is, growing unrest and climate challenges. So we really do need to do things differently. That's probably the next steps from our domestic network, as well as documenting our history. So I think Sandra summed up a really lovely, 20-year chapter of the era of Australian healthy cities networks in the country, in Australia. So documenting that and moving on is probably our next steps.
Right, awesome. Thank you, Kelly. I was going to ask you first, but I'm going to swap order and ask Ms. Heran the next question first, and then I will come back to you, Kelly. So Ms. Heran Kim, I will ask a follow-up question. You mentioned that one of the key activities of KHCP was the KHCP academies with the overseas training. And you're very active in facilitating that city-to-city learning opportunities. What are some of the goals and achievements that you anticipate for these study tours, and what outcomes do you see from these? How do these opportunities benefit the member cities?
네, 제가 생각하기에는 건강도시 사업은 굉장히 철학적이고 그다음에 다양한 분야를 통합하고 있다고 생각합니다. 그렇지만 지금 현재 우리나라는 공중보건 필드에서 국가에서 획일적으로 하는 사업들이 굉장히 많고요. 그런 사업들을 하고 있는데 건강도시는 그렇게 시행되는 사업과는 다르다고 생각합니다. 과거 제가 실무자일 때 기회가 되어서 해외 건강연수를 다녀왔었는데요. 그때의 경험이 지금까지 지속적으로 건강도시 사업을 추진하는 아마 그 원동력이 된 것 같습니다. 그래서 내가 지금 현재 처하고 있는 장소, 또 내가 가지고 있는 상황, 이런 모든 것들을만 생각하는데 그것보다는 다른 나라들의 정책을 듣고 보고 그리고 인지하는 그런 경험이 매우 중요하다고 봅니다. 그래서 건강도시 사업은 정말 담당자들과 리더들의 시야가 넓어지고 생각이 넓어지면 그 사업을 바라보는 방향이라든지 수행 방식이 넓어질 거라고 생각하기 때문에 저희 협의회에서는 이런 연수를 추진하고 있습니다. 또 하나의 정말 장점은 솔직히 건강도시 사업 실무자들과 여러 이 업무를 맡은 사람에게 특별한 인센티브가 현재 주어지지 않고 있습니다. 솔직히 가장 중요한 게 월급이 뭐 오른다는 것도 아니고 뭐 승진이 확실히 되는 것도 아니고 하지만 정말 이게 소소하지만 이런 협의회에서 해외 연수 기회가 제공된다는 이 자체가 굉장히 또 실무자들에게 메리트가 될 것 같아서 추진을 하고 있습니다. 저희는 연수를 추진하는 그 방향과 목적이 있는데 저 실무자와 리더들에게 하는 방향과 목적이 틀립니다. 리더들의 연수의 목적은 리더들의 연수를 통해서 강력한 건강도시 추진력으로 이게 나타나는 거고요. 그리고 실무자들의 연수는 건강도시 사업이 대한민국에서 정말 지속적으로 유지될 수 있는 그런 걸 담보하는 목적으로 저희가 추진하고 있습니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you so much. Kelly, you briefly mentioned about, and I did as well, attending the European WHO Healthy Cities Conference just last month in Bursa, Turkey. What did you learn? What was the most impressive takeaway from the conference for you?
There were lots. I think most impressive was to see the depth of the European network, you know, being so long, and the political investment. So I think there were 90 publicly elected officials from lots of different countries there. So the political will and investment and connection was very, very clear, which is a very different scenario in Australia. But I think the tagline of the conference really sticks with everyone that was there, and that was "When nations talk, cities act." And cities really at that level have the ability to activate, mobilise, react much quicker than state and federal governments in Australia to protect, react to whatever is going on in their community, be that natural disaster or pandemics or you know, housing, transport, all of those sorts of things. So yeah, when nations talk, cities act really stuck with me. And I think the other amazing thing was just their planning. So they have a 5-year planning cycle, and they're entering into their next one. So there was the Bursa Declaration was signed. And so again, very impressive, multilateral, you know, countries agreeing collectively to work on common issues was very impressive, very well organised.
Thank you. Before I re-invite our chairs of the networks, one final question for you, Kelly and Heran. What are some of the opportunities and challenges in promoting this National Healthy Cities Network? Heran, would you like to start?
이 네트워크를 홍보를 하는 데 있어서 이제 저희에게 어떻게 하면 좋겠냐. 저희가 이제 KHCP 건강도시 협의회 저희가 사무국에서 여러 가지 네트워크를 홍보하고 있을 때는 굉장히 강력한 좀 장점들이 많았습니다. 저희가 지방정부 자체로 국가적인 네트워크를 홍보하려면 굉장히 역부족이고 또 이게 여러 가지가 있는데 제가 대한민국 건강도시 협의회라는 국가 주도가 아닌 협의회 조직으로 저희가 네트워크와 이렇게 긴밀한 협력을 했을 때 굉장히 모든 분들이 이쪽에 관계되는 다른 국가의 모든 분들이 굉장히 협조적이었고 접근이 쉬웠다는 것이 굉장히 좋았습니다. 하지만 가끔 가다 보면 이런 국가적인 네트워크를 추진하는 데 있어서 우리랑 너무 상황이 다르기 때문에 또 언어라든지 기조적인 차이나 문화적인 차이 때문에 이런 협력이라든지 이런 협업 방식 이런 것들이 굉장히 어렵게 느껴지는데요. 이거를 좀 도전하는 마음들과 이런 거를 좀 앞으로 더 생각을 해서 네트워크를 추진하면 항상 좋다고 생각을 합니다. 그리고 우리 실무자들, 특히나 지방자치에 있는 여러 실무자들은 이런 국가적인 네트워크를 하려고 하면 유럽과 우리는 달라. 우리는 좀 더 여기는 아무것도 아니야 하는 그런 자조적인 포기 상황들을 많이 하려고 하는데요. 그런 것보다는 1차적인 협력에서 점점 발전하는 그런 방향으로 앞으로 가면 굉장히 네트워크가 활발히 이루어질 수 있을 거라고 생각을 합니다.
Really?
There's so many opportunities, so many challenges, but just if I was to pick a couple, I would say the main opportunities is for cities to really have great policy alignment with national preventative health strategies. And a network of cities provides a really practical framework to operationalise those national policies. And there's also a really growing demand and respect for localised place-based health initiatives or urban initiatives in general. So community-led based initiatives to improve health and equity outcomes are growing in demand. So I think Healthy Cities Australia can act as a real hub to bring together local councils, researchers, using our shared kind of values approach to addressing place-based initiatives. And in terms of challenges, I think in Australia, funding is always a big challenge. But I think for councils having competing priorities and constraints, you know, they don't have huge budgets. They have to be across so many issues. And I think at the moment, the narrative is that Healthy Cities is, it's extra work for them. So we need to work hard at reframing the approach and the movement such that it's, you know, they see it as a benefit to improve their own outcomes, reduce costs across council. They're already doing the work without giving themselves the label of a healthy city. But I think a challenge there for the Australian context is to reframe the value and the purpose for local government to really activate grassroots community outcomes again.
Thank you. I'm just conscious of time, and we do have a couple of questions that have come in. At this point, I do want to go back to our chairs, Mayor Lim and Sandra. I was, you know, throughout the presentations and the panel, I could see you listening attentively, smiling, nodding at times, and taking notes. So just as kind of a final wrap-up question, I actually had two, but maybe I'll ask them together. And if you could address the two questions kind of in one. So in your view, why is having a national network important? And what do you think are the opportunities for cross-regional collaboration and knowledge sharing, like what we're doing today? Maybe I'll invite Mayor Lim to respond first. So maybe 1.5 minutes each.
예. 우선 그 국가 내에서의 네트워크의 중요성 중에 가장 큰 것 중에 하나는요, 뭐 도시 간에 여러 가지 차이가 있고, 뭐 자원의 차이도 있을 수도 있고, 재원의 차이도 있을 수도 있고, 인력의 차이도 있을 수 있다고 봅니다. 그래서 어떤 문제를 해결해 가는 데 있어서의 방안에 있어서 차이는 있을 수 있으나, 발생하는 문제는 비슷할 수가 있다고 생각합니다. 그래서 이 발생하는 문제들을 해결해 가는 데 있어서 실패의 경우를 줄일 수 있다. 네트워크를 통해서. 그래서 먼저 예를 들어서 그 먹거리 정책과 관련해서 건강한 먹거리를 생산하고 제공하고 또 건강한 먹거리에 대해서 기준을 정하고 평가를 정하고 이런 과정들이 있을 수 있다고 보는데요. 그런 것들을 먼저 시행한 도시의 경험을 바탕으로 한다고 한다면 실패할 수 있는 확률을 줄일 수 있다고 하는 점에서 네트워크가 갖는 힘은 크다고 생각합니다. 두 번째는 이제 새로운 그 사업에 대한 정보가 주는 영감, 예를 들어서 스마트 기술을 이용한 건강 도시를 만들어가는데 AI 기술이라든지 여러 가지 데이터를 활용하는 문제라든지 이런 부분에 대해서 예를 들어서 스마트 건강 도시 체계를 구축한 도시들의 경험에 정보를 얻음으로써 우리 도시도 저렇게 새롭게 주민들의 삶의 질을 높이기 위해서 스마트 기술을 이용하는데 어떻게 활용하고 있구나. 우리 도시도 그런 부분에 대한 접근이 필요하겠다. 그래서 그런 부분에서 새로운 아이디어나 영감이나 그러니까 정책을 수립하고 실행할 수 있는 동기부여를 할 수 있다고 하는 점에서 그런 점에서도 네트워크가 갖는 힘은 크다고 생각을 합니다. 예.
Thank you, Mary Lim. Sandra, over to you. Sandra, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Limtek. Yes, from the Australian perspective, it made me reflect on the chapter as compared to Korea. Australia, very large country, cities scattered, they had the tyranny of distance. But I think there's never been a better opportunity now. Like before, if we wanted to meet, you'd have a conference, there'd be, plane trips involved, a lot of expense. But now in Australia, we can grow the network, particularly through this partnership, with advances in technology, such as we're meeting here today with the Zoom. And I think we could do that, and I think we can learn from Korea how it's done. I think it's just a matter of actually promoting it through social, as you say, social media, reaching out and using the technology that is available for all cities in Australia to join the Healthy Cities movement. And I know what you said, Mayor Lim, about all cities being different. And you have a smaller city as compared to a largely populated city. But if you want to trial a policy, often it's probably safer and a bit more cautious to implement that policy in a smaller populated city where you can evaluate and just check the effectiveness of that policy and then translate that to a larger population. So I see only good can come by expanding the network.
Thank you. We have time for one question, and we have one question on our board, which is perfect. So the question is, for both networks, what are 2 or 3 major ways, other than resourcing, that WHO Geneva, I think it means the headquarters, can help you realize your ambitious strategic plans? Anyone have any ideas?
I'll go first, and it's really a learning to learn from them as to how they approach the city level measurement, what metrics they're using, what engagement strategies they're using, and what's been successful. So I think, the tyranny of distance of cities within Australia is one thing, but then we also are Australia, which is very isolated from the rest of the world sometimes. I mean, not sometimes, that's just a fact. So I think learning and reaching out and maybe strengthening the connections between Geneva and Healthy Cities Australia in itself would be a great morale booster, but also a great learning for us to have access to those technical expertise.
Yes, I think that's important. Following up from Kelly is I'd be interested in their methodology on evaluating the value of Healthy Cities policy within those local cities as part of the network and sharing that information. As you know, funding bodies, either philanthropists or national governments, are going to look for evidence to see whether or not the Healthy Cities policy is of value to continue and support with funding. So I think that's something that we can learn from Europe, how their methodology and how they evaluate their policy and programs.
Anyone from our Korean colleagues want to quickly address?
예, 제가 답변해도 됩니까? 제가 지난 올해 WHO를 방문하고 느꼈던 것 중에 하나가요. 그 WHO가 국가 간의 어떤 협력 관계를 주로 많이 다룬다고 볼 때, 도시 간의 협력이라든지 도시 간의 소통, 과 관련해서 조금 지원하고, 그래서 도시 간의 그런 소통들이 활발하게 이루어질 때 협력 관계는 오히려 더 강화될 수 있다고 생각합니다. 그런 점에서 WHO가 건강도시와 관련해서 도시에 대한 교육 사업이라든지 또 새로운 사업 어떤 정책을 개발하는 거, 이런 부분에서 각 도시들에게 어떤 그런 것들을 지원할 수 있는 그런 체계들을 조금 더 확장했으면 좋겠다, 그런 생각을 해봤습니다.
Thank you. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. We're already 1 minute over time. And in closing, I would like to give immense thank you to the speakers and all of you in the audience for your time and participation, and also to the co-organizers and their staff for your work in putting this webinar together. And finally, thank you to our interpreters for their wonderful job in making this event even more impactful today. I look forward to continuing this conversation, and I think we all really want to continue this conversation. And yes, so that's it for today, and we'll be in touch. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye. Thank you.
감사합니다. 아쉽네.
Yeah, thank
또
you.
봬요. 또 해요.
Yeah.
교수님 끄셨어요?
아직 안 껐는데요. 잠시만요. 잠시만요.